We are going to talk about errors. Such a common issue with vibe coding and coding in general, I know, but especially with vibe coding, because you get stuck in these loops where you're having a conversation with AI about a particular app that you're trying to build. And at some point, an error will pop up and you try to fix it. You tell the language model, hey, I've got an error here. Can you please fix it? And then it tries, and then it fails, and then it tries, and it fails. And sometimes it succeeds, but then it causes other errors. And you just get stuck in this weird loop where it feels like you're not making any progress. And in fact, you are not making any progress. I guess that situation going on right now. So I've been working on this app. And actually, let me pull up noisefixer.com. This is the web app that I'm working on. I've already built a working version of it, but I want to add a couple more features. And that's when you start running into problems, because if you didn't start out with those features in mind, then at some point you're going to have to redesign at least some part of the app to get them into the app. And often what will happen is you run into that same issue that I was talking about, where you get it kind of half working, but then it starts causing errors, or maybe not working at all. And like the situation that I'm in right now, I got the new features, but now the app itself doesn't work. So the right way to go about this is to know what you're building in the first place. But as a vibe coder, that's not going to be the case for you, as it is not for me. We're learning, and this is a learning process. It's an explorative process where you have an idea, you want to explore the idea and build, and it feels fun and creative. Well, it's creative to a point, and then at some point it just starts becoming iterative and boring and repetitive and frustrating. And like I said, you get stuck in these weird loops. So what do you do if you didn't do the right thing in the first place and design the app from the ground up with the features that you need integrated into it? And by the way, this happens with professional coders as well. It happens with professional applications where they want to change it at some point, and either they can't because it was built a specific way with a certain kind of thinking. And I ran into that at one of my previous jobs, where we had the software where you had to have a unique email address to have an account, and we had multiple people with actually I think it occurred at my last two jobs, in fact, where they needed multiple accounts, but they couldn't have them because our system was using email addresses as the unique identifier for accounts, which is an incorrect way of creating accounts, and it just caused all sorts of problems. At least in that case, it was an incorrect way of creating the accounts, because we needed people to be able to have multiple accounts in different instances, and they couldn't because our system didn't allow it. And then we couldn't fix it because everything was built on that system, and it just we were just screwed. There's no way to fix it. People just had to change their email address. That's literally what we told people. You just got to change your email address, have a different email address. And it's not a great solution, but that's what happened, because we built the app in the first place from the ground up the wrong way. And that's what I'm running into here. I built the app the wrong way from the ground up, and now it's really frustrating trying to fix it. Now, not to worry, it is fixable. There is a solution. but it's not easy, and it does take time, and it's mentally difficult, because the real solution is not to sit here and go back and forth with this one conversation. And let me close this console here so it's a little less busy. The solution is not to sit here and go back and forth. It's not working. We've had quite a few rounds of this, running into these errors. It's not going anywhere. Maybe you might get lucky and it might figure out the problem, but the main issue with a language model is, first of all, it's using all the previous conversation as context. And the more you talk to it, the more context you're creating that is just kind of reinforcing the same issues that you're running into in the first place. So the more you talk to it, actually, your chances are growing less and less that it's going to solve the problem on its own. I know it maybe seems counterintuitive, but it's not learning. That's the thing about a language model. It's not really learning. The more context you give it, the better. But once you start a conversation and you've been going for quite a while, and you're going in circles, you're not really adding new context. You're adding the same context over and over, which is just reinforcing the same errors that you already had. So the chances that it's going to break out of that pattern on its own become less and less the longer you are in that conversation. You might get lucky, but your chances are lower and lower the longer you sit here and argue with it. So what do you do? Well, there's a couple things that you can do. The best thing that I've seen that has worked is, I guess there's two. One is to go find an earlier version of the application where everything was working and add that as context into this conversation. And two is to go outside this conversation and start going to other models and trying to get help outside this conversation. You can go a couple directions with that. You can go to a totally different model, like go from Gemini to ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever. That can help. But even better, just starting a new conversation can help, because even in the same model, because again, the longer you have a conversation about the same thing, the more context you're building and reinforcing the same kind of like stuck behaviors that you had. And so just starting a new conversation can help get you out of that loop. So that can be really helpful. But also what you can do is start a new conversation and add the context of, like, these are the errors that I'm having. And so let me show you an example. Actually, I just started that here. And I'm going to show you this in a second as well. But sometimes, for some reason, I don't know if this is just me, if it's because I've got ad blockers or something, but I've been having this issue recently with Gemini where it logs me out. So if you're having this issue, I'll show you how to not fix it, but to at least get the response out from this page. So if you've got a good response, then before you close this page and refresh, because if you refresh, it'll delete the last response that it gave you, which is very frustrating. But anyway, I'll show you how to fix that. But first, before I do that, let me open up a new Gemini page and show you how to start a new conversation with the previous context and hopefully get an answer that's a little better. And I'll show you a couple other strategies as well for fixing errors. But this is a good first place to start. You take the code, even though it's not working, and you dump it in here into a new conversation. and you add a prompt like this, which is, hey, let me scroll up to the top here. This prompt right here, let me zoom in here. List every element, function, variable, and constant in a very short description for each about what it does and how. This is something that I use constantly with every model. Is I use this prompt and then I dump in all the code for an app that I'm working on. This is a quick way to get deep contextual understanding of the application into this conversation before you start making edits. You can also, like in this case, since I'm having these errors, I might as well, let me zoom back out here. I might as well grab all these errors from the console here and share those in this conversation as well. And I'll say, and also do some research on errors like the below and what causes them. I don't know if it'll actually do any research. I'm on the thinking model. I don't think it will. But just saying that, do some research, may help it get in the state of mind that I need it to be in to start solving these errors. So let's go ahead and submit that prompt. And what it should do is write out all of the elements, functions, and variables and constants that I told it to do. And hopefully while it's doing that, it's like kind of thinking about those errors and why they can occur and why they might be occurring. Now, a language model, I use the term thinking kind of loosely because the way that a language model works, it's barely thinking. That's barely the right word, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, so it's writing out all of those things that I told it to write, which is good. It's giving it context for the conversation. And then what I might do next is go find a working version of, like from a previous version of the application, copy the code, and then see, I did a little bit of that error analysis. Now I'll say, why does this version below not cause errors like the above? What is different? So now I'm giving it more context that is like good context because that was a working version. Now, there's a chance that it could start getting confused about which features I want and which features I don't, because there's been quite a bit of change from the old version to the new version. So that's a risk that I'm taking by adding more context, but hopefully, it's a risk that's worth taking because I'm stuck in a loop and I need to fix it. So, okay, the error is resolved because the encoding function was redefined in the main script scope. In the first version, the main thread, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't care what the answer is. I just wanted it to get that context in there. So now let's go back and let's try to see if it can fix this error now that it's got all that context. So fix the above error in this code. Now, again, I'm adding more context that to try to make sure it's in the right state of mind. So I've pasted the broken code twice now and the old working code once. So hopefully, and then I'm going to do this in canvas mode. And I also added this prompt here. So resolve all this, add logging to diagnose, and then I've heard that this works. I don't know. It's debatable whether this works or not. It seems like it does, but giving your language model vague threats seems, at least currently seems to help in like pushing it along to actually do what you're wanting it to do. So I add sort of a vague threat here. Resolve all this and add logging to diagnose if you want to admit you are too stupid to fix it and too lazy to do research. I don't know if it really helps or not, but it seems to, and so I'm going to use it. I'll use vague threats if it helps. Please write the full, complete, and working HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code for a web application with the following characteristics. And then you can also add more here if you want to, but in this case I'm just going to leave it. The code must be fully complete and functional with no placeholders or comments. Include detailed console logs before, during, and after every step to provide comprehensive diagnostics. All right, so the other thing that I can do is, now that this has given us a little bit more info about that error, I could take this new information and paste that into the conversation here. So I could say, in the previous version, that error never occurred. And hopefully I can spell error correctly. And I'm going to copy these errors here. I'll say, your new code is causing these errors. And I paste all the errors, and then in the previous version, that error never occurred. And then I'll go and grab the previous version, which was over here, and paste that code. And now I'm adding that context to this conversation, along with the response that I just got from this conversation here. Now I'm just filling it up with context that might help it understand what's going on. And then I'm going to say, resolve all this, that same prompt that I dumped into the previous conversation. Now, is this going to fix it? Probably not, but there's a chance, because I'm adding new context. I'm getting it unstuck from that loop that it was in. And okay, let's see how this is doing. This is quite a bit of code. It's right at the edge of what these models are really capable of. I even at one point tried to minify all the CSS and JavaScript, and I think that's where the error came from, because you can do one or the other. You can minify all the JavaScript, the CSS and the JavaScript, or you can make edits. But if you try to do both, you're often going to run into problems, and that's the case. I should have started a new conversation with the minified code rather than like doing both of those things in the same conversation, because then it starts getting confused because it looks back in the previous context and a JavaScript function had a different variable or a different constant or whatever, and it starts getting confused and using the same previous code mixed in with the new code, and that can cause errors. So if you do minify the code, it's good to start a new conversation. And I would say it's probably good to start a new conversation every so often anyway. Once you get like through adding one feature or changing something pretty major, then start a new conversation with that new code and make that new conversation about whatever the next thing is that you want to do. All right, let's see how this code does. And by the way, I've always got a few code pens going with different versions of the app that I'm working on for this exact situation, actually. Okay, I can visually see that it's already forgotten some things. But let's go ahead and at least see if something works, anything at all. This is a noise reduction tool, so hopefully it'll import the audio. Okay, I see that it did, but it didn't get rid of the overlay, so we can't look at the audio. Let's see. Okay. There's no pause button. Is that gonna... Nope, you can just play it. You can't pause it. Okay. That's gonna be annoying. Alright, well, we'll refresh it there. Okay, so it maybe kind of fixed it. It didn't, there's no error, but also it isn't working totally right. So which conversation was that in? Was that in this new one? Where was that? It might have been a previous version, so it's probably okay that it isn't working. This one's still going. While we're waiting for those, let me show you how to access this. So right click here and do inspect, and that'll pull up the dev tools, and go up here to its overlay container. Click on that, and over here in the style, the CSS rules, do display colon none semicolon, and that'll just hide that overlay. And now I can grab this code, and let me go ahead and preview it, just see if this works. This is a previous attempt at fixing the errors. And yeah, I didn't fix it. Still got errors here. So anyway, in this case, it doesn't really matter. It didn't fix the issue, but that's one way of getting past that issue where, and because also when you refresh, it'll remove your previous prompt. And so if it was a nice, well-crafted prompt, then you want to grab it. So you have to close that overlay real quick so you can. And now you can refresh, and I've got my prompt copied, so I can post it, resubmit it. That's the word I was looking for. All right, this one still got that error, and this one over here is it still writing? Yeah, still writing. 218 lines of code. It's going. And yeah, I think this is a previous version that I was trying to fix. So as you see, this, even though I've got it across multiple instances of Gemini, I'm still not getting this fixed. It's still having issues. So you can kind of, I mean, you can sit here and go back and forth and like try to have one conversation and then go to another conversation. You could try going to a different model like Perplexity or ChatGPT. ChatGPT won't work with an app this large, because when I tried to, it pops up with this error. The message you submitted was too long. Please edit it and resubmit. So it just won't work with something that large. Now, I guess I could probably paste the code into a file and then upload it, but I'm guessing it would probably truncate it anyway on import. So I have a feeling it probably wouldn't work. Perplexity, it can be hit or miss. Sometimes it can be really good, especially their research model here can be really impressive, and their labs model. But often it's better when you started the conversation in Perplexity. It seems to do a less good job of taking over something that was working. I tried to do that here, and it greatly simplified the application, and it doesn't work. So not only did it not fix the issue, it broke a bunch of other stuff too. So what can you do at this point where you've had multiple rounds of trying to fix this error? You're not getting anywhere. Well, you could try another approach. Like you could try coming at this in reverse order. So I could like copy all these errors. Maybe. Scrolling. I think I've got them all. And I could start a new conversation. So I'll go open a new conversation here. And I could paste all these errors, and I could say something like, research why errors like these occur. List 10 reasons for each error. In particular, more recent examples. And paste all those errors. And we'll use the, let's just see what it does. We'll just leave it with the thinking model. Actually, let's do the fast model, because we've been using the thinking model and that's where we're getting the errors. So let's try the fast model and see if it will do any research for us. We could also copy this and take it over to Perplexity, same thing. Start a new conversation. And we could use a research model or whatever. We'll just use the default. And it's saying that this query is too long because it's a bunch of the same error repeated. So I'll just remove some of those. And now we'll do some research on those errors. Now, another thing that I've had good success with, which is probably gonna surprise you, is using Google's default what do they call it? This AI mode. So if you go to Google and you're just on the normal Google homepage, there's this AI mode here. And if you ask anything like bananas, AI mode will be right here as one of the options. Well, it's available even from the search bar right here, this navigation bar. You can just type in your query, what causes these errors, and paste your prompt, hit that icon right there, and it'll use the AI mode. And I've had really good luck with error, like chasing errors and finding the solution by using this model. Now, I'm assuming that this model is just a lot more. I mean, it's based more on Google, the Google database, the search database, as opposed to these other models that are trained more as language models. So it's pulling more relevant and recent information to solve these errors, and in fact, linking to solutions. So these other, I mean, if you notice, a lot of the responses you get from these large language models, they don't link to where they're getting the information. It's just buried somewhere deep in the model. And that's because these models were built, with millions and millions of pages of data. And typically they were built, months ago or years ago, whatever it was. It takes a while to get these models built and trained. And by the time it gets to you, some of this information is old. And especially if you're using like new JavaScript libraries or any new technology, it's not necessarily going to have access to that. But the Google AI mode will. And so recently I was working on, I was building out this MP4 MKV converter to convert MKV files, which is like a type of video file. I was building this out, and I was using a new library called Media Bunny, and the language models that I was working with didn't even know about Media Bunny, or didn't know much about it. So then when I would run into an issue, I could just go to Google's AI mode and ask, like when I'd run into an error. So I'm going to take this information here and just dump this into our conversation. I'll put the errors, and I'll put Google's AI mode response to those errors. And just give it a little bit more context. And in fact, I will do that here, as well as with, I think it was in this conversation. No. Oh, I think maybe I left that conversation because I wasn't getting anywhere. Let's go ahead and click Start Research here. So we'll see if that works. I have doubts that it'll work in this conversation because it's so deeply entrenched in, it's a long conversation that I've had for a while. And like I said, I was doing too many things inside that one conversation, but we'll see. Adding a fresh perspective from Google's AI mode, even though it's the same company, Google, it may help it kind of snap out of that cycle. All right, let's go over to this conversation here. Let's see what it says here. Cannot set properties. Yeah. Let's go ahead and paste that prompt that we just got put into the other conversation, and we'll paste this as well, and we'll run this as a canvas. And I'm going to take this part out in a code box because we want it in canvas instead. Let's just see if that works. It's probably not going to work, but all of these are just just various ways that you can attempt to kind of snap it out of its whatever loop it gets stuck in. I can't remember if we tried this one here. Let's see. Loading file. I'm not seeing the error. It's an interesting sign. I'm also not seeing the spectrogram that I want to be seeing. Okay. Interesting. All right. Why am I not seeing a spectrogram? So let's go pull up a working version. And for this one here, we'll say, I'm not seeing a spectrogram. Do you remember how to generate spectrograms? See here. And again, I'm just pasting that working version. Let's go ahead and use this prompt again. They'll list every scroll up to the top here. See here. And list every element, function, variable, and constant, and a short description of each about what it does and how. All right, and run that. Sometimes just giving it that prompt will give it enough context to actually solve the problem for you. And so I've had that work as well. So, okay, I want to show you one other thing we can do while we're waiting for these models here. One other thing we can do is we can go start a new Notebook LM notebook. And Notebook LM I've brought up multiple times in these streams. It's a fantastic resource for a couple things. One, market research. It's great for market research. But two, it's great for building a database of and I'm using the term database loosely, but building basically a small language model of documentation. So whenever you're working with a certain type of technology, in this case, I'm working with there's a few. There's 3JS and a couple other libraries that I'm pulling in, and JavaScript libraries, and I could build out some documentation about those libraries, or I could build out documentation about specific errors that are coming up. So like here, instead of doing the AI mode, I can just go to all and find what Google suggests for that for this prompt. And in this case, only a couple came up, but I could just take looks like this is kind of the most common. Just take this part of the result and search for that. and take all these responses, grab the URLs, and import them into a notebook. And then I can have a huge database. I mean, again, I'm using the term loosely, but I can have a huge repository of information about that type of error. And then I can ask questions of that small language model based on all these websites that are talking about that issue. And then I can take those responses that I get from the small language model from Notebook and put them in our conversations with Gemini. And again, that's just one more way of adding more context. That's the problem that I'm trying to solve. I've got to get out of this loop and add more context and better context. So another way you could do it is like here, I can go grab all these URLs that were in this conversation here. Gemini did some research about those errors, so I can grab all these URLs here. And I'm going to go to a tool that I've got right here that just, you can use this tool too. It's free. It's on getmoredonefast.com. And right here, extract every link. I just want to grab the links here and copy those URLs. Looks like 28 of them. And we'll dump them in here. And let's go ahead and grab these ones as well. And looks like 164 of them. And we'll go ahead and insert. And we can also ask inside Notebook, there's a model here, there's a research model. You can do fast research or deep research and have it pull in its own sources. So I'm not sure how long of a prompt you can put in there. Let me try this whole prompt that I had here and see if I can put that into the Notebook research model. I assume it's probably limited, but it looks like it's long. It lets me do that. And you can also pull sources from your Google Drive if you want to. In this case, I don't want to, so don't need to do that. And it'll run that prompt as in its language model and pull up some suggested resources for you. I don't know if it's considering the fact that I've already got a bunch of sources here or not. It may find some duplicate sources that I've already imported, but I'm not sure about that. So anyway, let's go back to this one here. And with all this research and all this thinking, I'm going to dump this into the conversation. Even though it should include this as context, I'm not 100% sure that it does include all of that as context. So I'm going to dump it here as another prompt. And also, I'm going to go take our code here. And it looks like we're seeing a different error, so that's interesting. Let's just go ahead and test this real quick while we're here. And not working. Let's go look at see how our other models are doing. Code analysis and error debugging. What's going on in this one? Is this one working? I don't see any errors. And I do see the outline of a 3D shape there. That's a good sign. All right. Is it gonna work? And no, it doesn't generate the actual 3D spectrogram. So yeah, it's problematic. Okay, let's go ahead and grab this code though, because it's kind of half working. And I'm going to put it in the top of this prompt here. And paste it in there. And I'm going to go do this prompt here. And scroll all the way up. And I'll say resolve all this, add logging to diagnose. And I'm just dumping it in here. It's not very organized, but I'm just going to go ahead and see if it'll do it. I'll do canvas and we'll do thinking model. Now, there's a good chance it won't do it correctly, but it's worth a shot. These are all just different ways of trying to get new context. So in this one, and each one, you're going to have different issues. So in each one, you can go find a version that had that whatever issue it's experiencing. You can go find a version where you weren't experiencing that issue, and try to see if you can eliminate it. The 3D spectrum, or spectrogram, is not visible. Here's an old working version for reference. And we'll submit that. And we'll run over here. See where we're at here. And okay, unexpected end of input. All right. Let's close the console and see what we're looking at here. Oh, sure enough, that just ended unexpectedly. Let's refresh this because maybe so I've had this before where it just kind of like the page disconnected or something, and refreshing fixed it, and I was able to see the whole code. So if you might run into that where something is like only partially there, or there's an error or something. All right, let's pull in a piece of audio here. Loading file. Okay, mostly working, and no spectrogram. So same issue that we were experiencing with the other model. So I'll just go steal that prompt that I dumped in here. And where's my copy button here? Give me my copy button. It's thinking through this. Okay. There we go. Copy button. And let's paste this in here. And that is incorrect. That's not what I want. So let's try that again. This is the one I wanted. And we'll dump that in here. And we'll just see what happens. And in this one, we're running into a new error. So this is a good sign. Our context has helped at least a little bit to where it's now running into a different error. That is a much better sign than seeing the same error over and over. So in this case, actually, let me go ahead and refresh this one as well, because maybe it's the same issue where it just timed out. And let's see if the actual code is causing that error, or if it's just the effect of we're seeing. Yeah, it is looks like a real error. Okay. I'm just gonna, because this is a new error and we're not stuck in the same loop, that's a good sign. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it that error, let it know. I mean, I could have just clicked this fix error thing. Let it know that there is a new error and see what it does. It may run into the same issue. We'll see. This model here, okay, looks like it's doing something. Definitely not what we wanted. Okay, this is not helpful at all. A 3D cube and noise. Oh man, that's annoying. What? What? Why? Why did you do that? That is not helpful. But it's interesting, and sometimes you can get a response like this, and it's just total. It's like, what the heck is it doing? And then you add back in like the original code that you wanted to fix, and suddenly it like fixes it. There's something about having like kind of snapping it out of its cycle, even if it's some weird result like this, where it very well might work next time. So it's not necessarily a bad sign when you see just something totally out of the blue. That's better than seeing the same error over and over. You want to see something different. That's always a good sign. It doesn't necessarily mean you're there yet, but at least means you're not stuck in that same loop. So, okay, each one of these is hard at work. Let's go see how our notebook is doing. Yeah, it looks like it's still pulling in plenty of URLs here, and still working on that prompt there. Another thing that you can do is, and I mentioned this before, but with the AI mode, have a few conversations, have different conversations with that one as well. Go to Perplexity and have a different conversation with that one. Like if we keep running into that type error, cannot read properties of undefined, reading value, we might take this response that we got from Perplexity and dump it into a conversation. So we haven't got there yet, but this is the path, is just getting new context in there. That's how you get out of this loop, where you just start new conversations and keep doing that, keep iterating. And it does take time. As you can see, you know, we've been at this for a while now, and it looks like we're not closer, but we are seeing something different. That's a really good sign, where when you start getting different errors, it's like, okay, we're not in the same loop that we were in. That's a good sign. And when, like, you see the models creating things that are different than what you had before, that's a good sign too. So I'm going to have, let's see, let me go back to a previous version here. Not this one. I've just been pasting some of them into this same window. So here we go. Let's, was this a working version? I forget if this was a working version. Loading file. Not seeing any errors here. This must have been a previous working version. Now I'm forgetting what the original issue was that I was trying to solve. I don't want to share this working version with this model because I want to show it the one with the error. So let's wait until one of these spits out a broken version, a more recent broken version. Because I was trying to solve an issue that doesn't exist in, I mean it does exist in this version, but I hadn't yet fixed it. And so that's why I'm not seeing the error in this version, because I hadn't actually attempted to fix the issue yet. So this is an older model that won't really be helpful for us in this conversation. It might be helpful if we're having a conversation with in here where I want to show it like an older version where it was working. But in this one, I haven't even, it hasn't even really got enough context of the broken version yet. All right, where are we at? Are we getting close? It's in the CSS here. Scroll down. JavaScript. And let's see where this one is at. Scroll down here. Still writing functions. Okay. And this one's still working. I mentioned it before, but one thing that you can do to reduce your amount of code is to minify your CSS and JavaScript, which I did that, and I should have started a new conversation, and that was the issue that I mentioned that earlier, but where I minified it while I was in the conversation with about other features, and I should not have done that. I should have started a new conversation with the minified version, but that's one way to get your code a little bit smaller, is to minify it. And if you do that, though, yeah, start a new conversation with in a different tab or something, because if you add in that minified code to your conversation where it's got the old version in there, then it's going to get confused. All right, are any of these complete yet? Oh, is this one? Looks like this one. Oh, that's that same strange version. Come on, everybody. A lot of waiting around, even though I've got 3 different models going. And 4 if you count the notebook. All right. Yeah, I want to wait till one of these is completed, even if it's broken, then I can use that same code in Perplexity and this conversation here and see if it can fix it. Yeah, I mentioned this, but having multiple versions of the application and parts of the application, like here I built out just this one feature and have it as a separate application so that I can then, I was then able to add it to this here as a pop-up. So I always have like different versions, and I always save them, so I have different versions saved and I can go back to them, and then I can pull that code or some part of it and dump it into a conversation where it's like getting stuck in a loop. Let's see, where are we? Okay, I'm seeing the outline of that red 3D area there. And loading file. And no spectrogram. So in this conversation, I will go grab this working version and paste it in there. The spectrogram is never being generated, and that's bad. Oops, that's bad. I should be seeing a spectrogram. Here was an old version where the spectrogram worked. And I'm also going to copy this code here and put that into this conversation. Update the below app to make sure the spectrogram works. And I'm going to add this prompt over here. And there we go. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, same. Crazy, the Norwegians are so good at singing English. Good. All right. So this same issue here. So we're running into a new cycle, a new loop, and I mean it's better than the same loop, but we're running into a new loop. So again, just same thing, like. Rather than just pasting this error in here like I did before, maybe I'd go to a new AI mode and see what this says and copy all of that. And then dump that into the conversation. And again, just trying to snap it out of the loop. It's kind of long and tedious. Here, maybe I'll take these responses here, and from perplexity, and I'll dump these into this conversation here, along with these errors. And actually, one thing you want to do is just try all the things before you copy the console. See if you can create some more errors first, because that'll give it a little bit more information about what the issue is. So I'm testing out all the features and just to see if I can get an error to pop up, but nothing's popping up. So I'll just take these errors here and I'll paste them at the top of this. And you may notice that I'm not even paying attention to whether this context here had anything to do with these errors here. I don't care. I'm just trying to get it out of the same loop. So I'm just trying to add more information that'll kind of snap it out of that loop. You'll be surprised how often that can work. I mean, in this case, it's taking a while, but often that was the thing that actually got it to work, was adding new context that just had nothing to do with the error or whatever situation I was trying to fix. Just adding context to get it out of that loop helped. Okay, 24%. Let me go ahead and mute this because I do like that song too, but I mean that version as well. Okay, I'm seeing a spectrogram. This is a good sign. Okay. So we have a spectrogram. Let's go ahead and add let's see here. Add this here to this conversation here. That's great. Now add the rest of this UI and functionality. And I will add this prompt again. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this code and maybe put it in one of our other conversations where it's having trouble generating a spectrogram. And I'll go ahead and create a new code pin and paste that version just so we have it. It's not a great, I mean, it's kind of weird functionality. It starts playing the audio as soon as it's uploaded, but at least it's got one feature that we need, and so that's something that we can add to our other conversations. Let's go see if the notebook is loaded. Okay, yep, and 7 more sources. Let's go ahead and import those. All right, looks like all of these, or most of these, got loaded in here. Some of them didn't, and we can remove those. And let me show you something real quick, actually, while it's still loading some more in there. Even though it's got a bunch down here, I think if we go to add sources, see 155 of 300, if we remove those failed ones, I think it'll be the same. Hang on. It just added a couple more. Oh no, 155. Okay, so if we go down, boy, it's slow. I'm bogging my browser down. And we delete all these. I think those don't count against our total anyway. Let's go see. Yeah, doesn't matter. It's just visually, like, if you don't want to see them there, then kind of nice to get rid of them. Remove all failed sources. Okay. Now we could ask a question in here, like if we keep running into the same error, like right here, for example, we could copy these errors and paste them into our notebook, and it's pulling from, hopefully, content that's covering errors like that. It's a lot better if you build out a notebook about a certain technology, and that's what I would normally do is go to the libraries that I'm using for my app. Like for example, if we go over here to CodePen, or this one here, and we go look, it should be pulling in from 3GS. Sorry, or I mean 3JS. Let's see here. Orbit controls.js, FFmpeg. So I might build go look up the documentation for each of these libraries, and then pull those into a notebook and any content that I can find about them. And then I would have a notebook that's essentially a resource for me to use as I'm building out my app. So that's a good tool to use as well. I'm getting pretty heartened. Is that the opposite of disheartened? Encouraged here, because we're seeing a few things that are different than what we saw before. So that's a good sign. It's still taking a while to get out of this loop, but we're getting there. And you just got to be persistent, and you got to keep starting new conversations. Keep going back to old versions that did work and like adding those in. Just make sure that you're changing up the context. All right, let's go ahead and load a file here. And okay, well, it's not loading in the 3D I wonder why. It just was. Okay, let me go pull in that one again. I'm going to say, now you forgot the 3D spectrogram. Add that too. And I'll paste that previous code in there if I need to. All right, let's test this one. Hey, there we go. That's a good sign. No errors. It's generating the spectrogram. This is working. We did it. All right. That's how you do it. It's just a lot of iteration, a lot of going back and forth, and just it takes persistence. It's frustrating. It seems like you're going nowhere, and then all of a sudden you get a working version, right? Just like that. If I had kept having the same conversation with this model without adding all that extra context, we would never get there. It would be taking so long and we would never get there, for sure. That's just like the way these language models work. It feels like you can get out of it by just continuing to talk with it, but it just never works. You got to add more context. You got to start going outside that conversation and adding new stuff in there. So anyway, I hope that helps. That's all I wanted to cover for tonight. I know it's so tedious and it takes a long time and it's really frustrating, but that's how you do it. That's how you get out of the error loop, is just keep iterating. And I'm pretty sure that each one of these we would eventually get there in these conversations, just by adding more context, going back, adding working versions, going to Google, adding copying the responses you get, pasting those in there, going to different models, adding those responses, pasting those in there. Eventually you'll get there. You just need to keep adding context in there.